And I want you to know one thing. It's been a pleasure. You just like to dance, don't you, Carl?
That's right.
You like to dance. That was famous.
Welcome to 101. I am your host, Steve Buttram, and today's guest is the only individual I know personally who's been featured on Mike and Mike on ESPN and is a personal favorite of Mike Greenberg. He's also the only person I've ever talked to on the phone that scared me half to death. I didn't know if I owed him money or if I was just in plain trouble. He's also probably never sat in the chair he's sitting in now and never talked to this chair. So in the past 30 years of being on this set, I'm pretty sure that's the first time he's been on that side of the table. So our guest today is the Clarksville icon. He doesn't like that name, by the way, Greg Walker. And we'll tell a bunch of stories coming up right after this.
It's the Altima and Rogue sales event
at Matthews Nissan Pre-Owned Superstore, Clarksville's favorite used car dealer.
Big savings on Altima.
17 Altima, $16,988. 14 Rogue, $18,988. 700 new and used. No payments for 90 days. 15 Versa, $99 per month. 17 Sentra, $179 per month. And all certified come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty.
Come see us at Matthews Nissan Pre-Owned Superstore.
MatthewsNissan.com.
Life is good. Through the years, you've worked, played, and vowed to protect each other. Because you love her, you make sure you have made your final arrangements. Pre-planning protects your loved ones from the burden of making those decisions during a time of loss. At Neil Tarpley Parchman Funeral Home, services are professional, personal, dignified, and affordable.
Neil Tarpley Parchman, people who care, a name you can trust.
Welcome back into 101, a show that started June 1st, 1988. I get to be the guy who interviews the founder. Greg, I'd say welcome to your show, but it's yours, except we've swapped chairs.
We have, and it's a pleasure to have you. I got a real pro doing this, and this was something that our producer-director, Steve Sawyer, came up with. It's his idea for the 30th anniversary of the show, for me to sit here, and Steve and I got together, and I think this was a wise selection having you come in. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, Greg. June 1st, 1988. Wow. 101 started.
It happened about a year later than planned. Originally, John Mosley and Bill Harpel, Old Crown Television, and that's a long time ago. Old Crown Television, and Bill was he ran the place, and John worked there, and they wanted me to start a show. And I've been in radio at that time for 8 years, and well, a little more, but doing sports talk for 8 years. Mm-hmm. And I said, guys, I'm just not a TV guy. I'm a radio guy. It's real. I know it's real. And I like doing radio. But when my son was born, I obviously needed more money. And,
kids do that.
It happens. And he was a blessing to us, you know. Uh-huh. I was almost 40 when he was born. But needed more money, and just happened to run into John Mosley at the grocery store one day, and he said, Greg, I sure wish you'd do that show. And man, I said, well, let's talk about it again. And so John and Bill and I got together, and we came to an agreement for 13 weeks to see how it went. Mm-hmm. My first guest was Wally Cross.
Wow.
And Wally is, he's blind, he's a doctor, got his doctorate at Vanderbilt, if you don't know him, instructor at Austin Peay, and one of my great friends and a great person, and one of the most intelligent people I've ever had the privilege to interview. But started with him, did the 13 weeks, and it's gone on.
That's amazing. 30 years, same show.
Same show.
We did the math on it sitting here before we started. If you average 45 shows a year, that's over 1,350 shows.
Really not that many. if you think about it. 30 years, that's a long time. But a lot of people, it's a history, a lot of it, of Clarksville. If people take the time to watch, it airs 5 times weekly on WCKV TV here in Clarksville, and obviously on Charter and Channel 6 and CDE Channel 12. But the fact of the matter is, there's people that have told me they set their timer to tape the show and to watch
That's
it
awesome.
back or get it at that time. It comes on 5 different times, and then we put it, Steve puts it on YouTube. I put it on my timeline on Facebook after it's run. And it's grown, it does well, and it's a history of people in Clarksville. I mean, anyone I know me to talk with is a potential guest.
Yeah.
That's the way it's simple format. We just get to know people.
Right.
And, we all like to get to know people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Simple format, but hey, it's worked. Thank you, Lord. I've been blessed.
So, Clarksville is a town that has a lot of people. The growth that we've all seen in my short years living up here, the growth of Clarksville, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of growth.
No
One
doubt.
thing about Clarksville is so many people are not from Clarksville.
Yeah.
You are.
I am.
You are a Clarksville native. Born, raised here. Tell us a little bit about Greg the child.
Clarksville born, Clarksville bred, and when I die, I pray to be Clarksville dead.
I believe there'll be shirts made for that.
I can remember when the city limits was right there at the corner of Pageant Lane and Madison Street.
Wow.
That was the city limits. I grew up in Old Town, and I appreciate Old Town so much. I was born, and my first earlier years were on Greenwood Avenue. I was a Greenwood boy. And, when I was 6 years old, we lived on one side of the house, and my grandparents from the Walker side lived on the other. And Mom and Dad took care of them. They were retired and worked. And, my mother didn't at that time, I don't guess. Well, she did, probably a little. Everybody had to work back then. But when I was 6, we moved to A&W Motel. My father took over managing it. Then we moved to Nashville for 3 years. He managed Park Plaza there. Moved back home when I was in Nashville from the 4th grade. I spent the 4th grade through half of the 6th. We moved back home. Went to Moore, raced. So the only time I haven't lived in Clarksville were those 3 years in Nashville. But Clarksville's home. I love it. I've always loved it. I mean, when I lived at the A&W when I was 6 to 8, the Plaza Restaurant, the A&W was Eastern Kentucky when they'd come to town to play. Moorhead, they would stay with us.
Oh, wow.
Different teams. I mean, it was 41A was all that was there. Yeah. It was a nice little area then, Had Brad Martin's Texaco on one side of the Plaza Restaurant and Bobby Stacker's Esso across the street. Gas, I remember a gas war right there where gas was 18 cents a gallon.
Holy smokes.
Seriously.
That was a gas war?
That was a gas war. I had a gas war because it was so many. I had a line up the street, and of course the Texaco and the Esso, and they had a gas. I think there's a Sinclair up the street.
Remember those are the dinosaur on the side.
That's right. But that was how I grew up in Old Town, and by people my parents were just hard-working people all their life, did what they could. My father eventually he got into real estate. He became one of the there's only 3 building inspectors at that time. He was one of them. Carl Sawyer was the head of it down at the city at that time. Charlie Crow was the mayor when they were hired. I've known every mayor. I've liked every mayor. I've got along with every mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah, this city's been good to me.
Right.
You know, it's been real good to me. I've made a living. I haven't gotten rich as anything but, you know, I've fought the battle, but I've done something that I've loved all my life. Mm-hmm. And Steve, that means a lot, as you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't care what they pay you. If you don't like it, it's hard to show up.
I mean, it's just hard, man.
It's hard to show up. We were talking about old radio days. I started in radio many years ago, not a little earlier, a little later than your 30 years ago this show started.
You're a young man. You're 42 years
That's
old.
Right. That's right. I'm a little behind.
I was born in 48, you know.
Wow. So you're celebrating a pretty big birthday this year?
I am. As a matter of fact, in July, I'll be 70.
Wow. Miss Pat
Lord
got a big
willing,
party.
creek don't rise.
Miss Pat got a big party planned for you?
I hope not.
So tell us about, did you have any brothers and sisters?
I got one brother, Barry. He's my younger brother, 7 years.
Okay.
One of the greatest athletes to ever come out of Clarksville High. He could do it all. He was excellent in football, excellent in baseball, got scholarships at Austin Peay. He was good at golf, basketball.
Were y'all ever competitive with each other? I know there's a 7-year age gap.
I was 7 years. I coached him all the way up.
Oh, no
just
kidding.
About, yeah.
So it's safe to say some of his success is because of your coaching?
No. No, he had natural talent. But he was easy to coach. But he lives here in town. Of course, my wife, Pat. I don't know what I'd do without her. My life really changed. I was a young rebel. I did a little of it all. I mean, high school, if it was good, I tried it. If I liked it, I tried it again. College the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I sowed a lot of oats. I matured late in life. I matured when I married Pat, and I matured when my son was born, and that's probably the greatest. Marrying Pat and the birth of my son, just, you know, that's made my life all worthwhile.
Right. Hey, if you think those stories are good, there's a whole bunch more that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about maybe some of those rambunctious teenage years, and as much oats as you can talk about sowing on this show. We'll get into that in a minute. First, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
When your heart is full of grief, the last thing on your mind are the details. At Neil Tarpley Parchman Funeral Home, we specialize in handling all the planning for the celebration of life your loved ones deserve. Neil Tarpley Parchman offers services for all faiths and veterans. In your hour of need, we care.
Neil Tarpley Parchman, people who care, a name you can trust.
Welcome back into our show. Lots of stories still yet to be told. Glad you hung around for another set. So before we left, we talked about, you said something about sowing a lot of oats. So we're going to talk about some of your hijinks growing up. Now, when you came back from Nashville, where were you going to school then? You said you came back in the middle of the 6th grade.
More school, more elementary, as on Madison Street. Went to Greenwood Junior High and graduated from Clarksville High.
Okay. So tell me about teenage Greg Walker. Was he fun to be around?
I don't know if he was or not. I was so immature. I guess I was fun because I had a lot of friends.
Yeah.
And, you know, Steve, I will have to say my father and mother, they were good parents. My father, one of the best things he ever taught me, and he did, you treat everybody equal. It doesn't matter what they have, what they don't have. It doesn't matter how smart they are. It doesn't matter if you think that they're a little on the slow side. You treat them all equal. And he stressed this often to me. And I always did. I always do.
Well, that's some advice today that
I don't care
needs
if
to be said again today.
I don't care if I'm standing there with the governor or if I'm standing there with my very slow friend. I'm going to give him just as much respect as I give the governor. And that's a fact. It doesn't matter. And I don't care what color they are either.
Yeah.
Never have, never will.
And that's, you know, you talk about that, and that was a value, you know, everybody talks about the old days and stuff. That was a value then that doesn't exist today, unfortunately.
Too many splits. We're splitting the pie too many ways. When the pie gets split too many ways, what happens? It crumbles and falls.
Yeah.
Take it for another analogy might be better, but no, we've got to come together. You got to be a team. If my wife and I weren't a team, neither one of us could be here right now.
Yeah.
It's
Very
fact.
True. Very true.
You know,
Very
you've got to be a team. If Steve Sawyer and I weren't a team, this one-on-one wouldn't still be going on. If I didn't have good people that have believed in me over the years, sponsored me, believed in what I've had to say and what I do, and know that other people hopefully watch it and have respected that and like me, man, you got to work together. I mean, this is a time to pull together, and we're so divided in this country. It disturbs me badly, Steve. It really does. It hurts me.
Yeah. Just thinking about the timeline of when you would have been, you know, you're talking about being born in 48. So, you know, you're 10 years old in 58. Civil rights starts probably about the time you're headed into college.
In high school.
In high school. So that was all a different time. So that philosophy is
I was
crazy.
in high school when we had integration.
Yeah.
Went through it here in Clarksville. In Clarksville, we were very fortunate. Oh, we had our, and still you're going to have differences in cultures.
Sure.
And we had ours, but not like you folks had down in Alabama and they had over in Mississippi or Georgia or wherever. We didn't have those kind of, Louisiana, we didn't have those kind of problems as much. We had them. I mean, Wilma Rudolph wins 3 gold medals, and then Shoney's won't even let them in down there. We had that.
Wow.
Had to go through it together. I believe Irving Coleman, Doctor's son, was the first African-American, black, that we ever had come to Clarksville High. There's been others said others, but I still think Irving, well, he was the first I remember.
Yeah.
And very intelligent young man. And then Ronald Clark, a young man named JoJo, and I forget, got shot and killed over here, shot in the back and killed back in the day. I won't mention who or anything, that's old news, but you know, I remember it well, and I think we were relatively unscathed, and we were more of a community. I think we're still better than we think we are. I think we love each other more than one of the most beloved, if not the most beloved man, certainly one of the most beloved men that's ever come out of Montgomery County was Pastor Jimmy Terry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what can you say? And I'm talking about, I don't care if you were Asian, white, black, it doesn't matter. It's just love.
Yeah.
You know, goodness, what difference does that make? Yeah. Let's come together as one and fight what's really our problem. They're taking us over from the inside out just because of this dividedness.
That's very true. That's very true. On a lighter note.
Please.
On a lighter note, although that's some sound information that this generation's got to get hold of.
I get on a tangent, I'm sorry.
That's fine. I love a good tangent. On a lighter note, you're a teenager. It's Saturday afternoon.
And I've never sat over here.
It's Saturday afternoon. Greg Walker's a teenager. What's he doing?
Oh, mercy. On a Saturday, Well, we're playing ball somewhere, most of us, if we can.
Yeah.
Some kind of sports, it didn't matter. The season or the year, we were looking for a game.
Right.
That's what we were looking for. We were looking for somewhere to go play, whether it be basketball, find a gym, if it's cold outside. If it's football season, you were either playing over at Greenwood, Myrtle Field, out at Beach Haven, or wherever the case may be. Baseball, you're looking for a game, or playing tennis ball over in front of Greenwood, over in front of Smith School, or playing out at Barksdale or down at Coy Lacey. In the summers, you had your parks and recreations, and we competed against each other in softball, horseshoes, croquet.
The croquet league get a little competitive.
A guy named Bobby G and Mary Jo Pace, they ran the park at Moore, and they were so much fun to be around. We had hey, you know, when my dad we were like gypsies. One thing about it, we'd buy a house and we'd live there a few years, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Dad, they'd fix it up, sell it, make a profit, we'd move here. Then we'd move here and we'd move here. You know, we moved all around from Greenwood to, Madison and the street to Nashville to Delmar Drive to Crossland Avenue to Montgomery Parkway to Memorial Drive and Hilldale to Belmont and North Meta or West Meta to Alfred Drive to over in Southern Hills. You see what I'm...
Yeah.
So I got to know, though, because of all these moves, I didn't realize it, a lot of different people, a lot of different neighborhoods, play with a lot of different guys, and got to be friends with a lot of different guys because of it. And if you don't have friends, you've got nothing.
So that gypsy mentality of selling and moving on, that had to help you when it came time for 101 to start, or for even when sports talk to start.
It's helped me in so many ways. Didn't realize it at the time. I lived across the street from Doug Jolly. We lived there quite a while. That was one of our favorite houses. And there's always a basketball game. He had the best goal around in his back where he played basketball. Had Ronnie and Donnie Harrison living across the street, and they were twins.
Yeah.
He shot ball, played all kinds of ball.
We're talking about the fact that you know a lot of twins.
I do. And Norris and Horace Heggie, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention them. Two of the best friends a person could possibly have. Take care of me in so many ways. Matter of fact, Horace has come over this morning to help you and Steve.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about all that later, but they're great people. And Steve's giving you the signal.
He is giving me the signal, and I've known him long enough to know that I better wrap it up. We're going to take a quick commercial break, come back, wrap it up in here, and wind up this episode. But don't go anywhere. A lot more stories to come. Stick around.
It's the Altima and Rogue sales event
at Matthews Nissan Pre-Owned Superstore, Clarksville's favorite used car dealer.
Big savings on Altima.
17 Altima, $16,988. 14 Rogue, $18,988. 700 new and used, no payments for 90 days. 15 Versa, $99 per month. 17 Sentra, $179 per month. And all certified come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty.
Come see us at Matthews Nissan Pre-Owned Superstore.
MatthewsNissan.com.
Welcome back to our final segment for this show. Listen, guys, make sure you tune in next week for another show because we're going to talk more stories. You can't do a show for 30 years one-on-one on for 30 years, sports talk for 38 years, and not have even more stories. We've just talked about young Greg Walker. We've not talked about married Greg Walker, dad Greg Walker. As he loves it when I call him the icon Greg Walker. We've not talked about it. Do you ever thought when you started this show 30 years ago you'd be on the internet with it, as well as all these channels?
I never thought about the internet.
Almore hadn't invented it yet, right?
I mean, I really never thought about it. I didn't know how to turn one on till 96 or 97, right in there.
That's so funny.
That's so funny. Turn the computer on.
You do know not only is one-on-one on YouTube, for those of you that may not have a traditional cable connection, but Greg's on YouTube. Not necessarily for the show. You're going to have to come back in a week or so to find out what we mean when we see clips of Greg Walker on YouTube. I can't tell you any more than that. It's strictly classified. But
believe me, this show is not set up. They turned it.
I told you about that during the commercial break, by the way, that there were some YouTube clips.
I have no idea what's happening. I'm just here today to answer questions.
So next week, we're going to talk about a little bit more of teenage Greg, and then we're going to talk about how he met Pat, getting married to Pat, how he got into this business, and a little bit more history of the business itself. We've talked about your personal history. If there's ever a guy that knows everybody in Clarksville, it's Greg. And so we might even squeeze in some stories of some of your friends and maybe some of the things they've done good for you. And then, of course, we can't forget next week to talk about what you said was your very favorite part was college years.
Oh, fun times.
So we're going to talk about your days as the governor and the sports and all the coaching you've done there. Greg, it's an honor. I can't believe how quickly this show flew by.
It goes.
I mean, it does. And, I've heard you say it watching your show, how quickly it goes by, and you have to do 2 and 3 shows with a guest, and we're going to do that here. So please don't miss that. Please don't miss when we come back.
I hope I don't run that many people off answering all these questions. If you have enjoyed it, though, tell your friends and neighbors to tune in.
Absolutely. Tell them to tune in. If you're one of those folks that are cord cutters and you don't have a traditional cable, go to YouTube. Like Greg Walker on Facebook. You're going to get a lot of great sports commentary all the time. I'm a fan. I'm a friend of his on Facebook. And I just can't tell you how much I've appreciated this opportunity. I know.
No, I appreciate you, my friend.
Well, I appreciate that very much.
You doing it. You're a pro.
That's very kind words. And next week, I will tell you the story of my first interaction with Greg Walker on the phone and why I thought I might have owed him money. So you're going to want, spoiler alert, I didn't actually owe him money, but I was scared about it. And the following phone call from a Clarksville mayor about Greg Walker as well. So we'll get some good credits in on that. Thank you again, sir. I really appreciate it, letting us come in your home and just basically, I told you, disassemble your living room to do this show.
Steve Sawyer, the producer and director, deserves all the credit for turning it around. You mentioning your name to me and the whole deal, and it all worked.
And you'll just have to take us word on that because you won't ever see Steve in front of the camera. So that's it for this episode. Be sure and join us next week right here on One-on-One with Greg Walker.